This tutorial explains how to customize and use your own list. The example we'll use is cabinetry refurbishing. Before you create a custom list, you must think through how you will use the list. The two key decisions you must make are, what job options do I want, and what measurements will be needed. First, let's decide on the measurements we want for our cabinet refinishing list. There are many ways to do this, but when we ask experienced pros about how they like to do it, we learn that most want to estimate from a single key quantity. Why is this? Well, when you repeat these jobs, it keeps things simple and consistent. It can be clearly explained, and as we'll see at the end of the demo, it makes it easy to tune and reuse your cost factors over time. We'll use the total length of cabinet frontage as our list unit basis. So, when we use the list for a job, we'll just have to measure the distances along the base and wall cabinets and sum those distances as the input to our list. The input to our list is called the list quantity. When we build our list, we'll take advantage of the fact that cabinet dimensions are standardized, and as such, we'll be able to calculate surface areas from the list quantity. For our job options, it's important that you write down each option that you want. Here, we're going to choose remove finish, prime and undercoat, paint, stain and top coat, and then a custom item, hardware tune-up, be something we add at the end. That takes care of the background information, so let's start building the list. After you've signed into your Homewyse List account, choose Add New List. Create blank list. Enter a name that tells you what this list will be used for. In this case, this will be our master list that we'll copy and reuse for cabinetry. We'll enter a wage of $45 per hour. In the basis section, we'll choose distance. As we just described, this will allow our list input to be based upon the cabinet frontage. As the graphic on the left shows, we can assume an average height for base and wall cabinets. For our case, we'll assume it's 3.5 feet. This means that there are 3 1/2 square feet of area for every foot of cabinet front. This will add a note that explains how we're going to convert that frontage distance into refinished surface area. At this point, we're ready to start adding job options. Choose Add Item to this list, Homewyse Library Items, and at this list point, we can either browse these items or we can use the search filter here. Let's type remove. That narrows our choice set down. In painting and decorating, we see we've got several options, and we'll choose remove paint from wood. For these Homewyse list items, all the information has been pre-filled out. So in this case, there's a name, there's a basis, which is square footage, which means that the costs are estimated based upon the square footage, and we have a description of the work done. The cost factors have been predefined, and lastly, in the quantity area, we can specify quantity. With every item, you have two options. You can specify the quantity explicitly and type a number in, a fixed number, or you can use automatically calculated. As we just described, we want 3.5 square feet of surface area to be identified for each linear foot that's input for the list input, so we use 3.5. We see that our items have been added to the list. At this point, it's really important to notice that when our list input is 100, our item quantity is actually 350, and that's because of the 3.5 factor we just entered. So for each item, you can basically put a different factor in depending on what you want, but in this case, most of our items are going to be 3.5. So let's fast forward a bit. You can see we've added 3 additional items. We've done it exactly the same way as we added the first. So we've gone to our add item, we've chosen Homewyse Library, and we've added one for paint cabinetry, a separate item for the paint itself that would be used, a third one for staining and clear coating. Let's add another item now. This time we're going to do it for the prime undercoating step. If we go to our library and we browse around looking for that, we may not find exactly what we're looking for. So if you go through the list, you might not find prime undercoat. And what you want to do in some cases is you use a task that's similar. So in this case, let's just say, paint door panel is similar. And to modify it for our needs, we just add a name that describes what we want this task to be. We have our unit basis, we'll leave that the same and what have you. In the description area, let's change that. And under costs, it's not 5 cents per square foot, but let's say it's 35 cents per square foot. And our production rate is not 32 square feet per hour. It's going to be 20 square feet. We'll put that in. And then our last factor, again, is the square footage per linear foot, and we use 3.5. Our last item here will be a custom item for hardware tune-up. Our basis this time is not going to be an area or a distance, but it's going to be a unit count. So we choose each as our basis, and we want this to be for future use in our painting and decorating account. So if we ever use it again, we can find it there. And all we have to do is put a description in. So in this case, what tune-up is going to involve is cleaning and polishing the hardware and then lubricating and aligning the hinges. And for this particular case, instead of putting the wage and hourly productivity levels in to calculate the cost, let's just use a flat rate cost. And to do that, just put that flat rate cost under the unit cost. So let's say that per door, we choose $25, okay? And then finally, when we specify quantity, instead of doing an automatically calculated quantity, which we could do if we wanted to estimate the number of doors from the frontage area, we don't want to do that. Let's just say that we'll manually go through when we use this and count. And to kind of start that off as a default quantity, let's just use a default quantity of 1. This completes our item definition. Now, one last housekeeping area that you might want to address before you save this away is the organization, the sorting order of these items. So, for instance, maybe you wanted your prime undercoating step to be up near the top where remove paint. So if you're going to do these in the sequence of the works performed, maybe you want to include remove paint, then prime, undercoat, and so forth. And then maybe you want to put product at the bottom. So to move any of these items, just drag and drop by name. And once you're done, choose Save. To prepare a specific estimate for this example, let's start by creating a copy of the master list. Choose Lists, add New List, Copy. In this case, our master list is what we want to copy. And what we'll do is we'll give it a name that represents the job, type, and the date. Reconfirm our list wage in dollars per hour. At the bottom, we can describe the job. So we want to put new paint, and we want to undercoat the fronts. We choose Save. So in this case, we go in, we've got a quantity that we know is 22 linear feet. Enter that value, and we notice all our quantities update. We want to remove paint from wood for this. We want to prime and undercoat, and we'll paint the cabinetry. We don't want to stain and undercoat, so we unselect that. And we'll do a hardware tune-up, but this time we're going to do it with a quantity of 18, so we enter that quantity and save. The last thing we need to do is remember to adjust labor cost for the good customer discount. So if we want to take 10% off, we just enter minus 10% here, and you'll see the labor amount change in the lower right-hand corner where the totals are. We can check our numbers, and when everything looks good, just choose Save, and there's your estimate. All right, what if a customer wants to know how much it would be to paint the outside and the inside, not just the outside? And in that job, instead of undercoating everything, maybe just to undercoat the outside. How would we do that? As the graphic on the right shows, you can make some simplifying assumptions about the inner area to be refinished based upon the cabinet geometry. So instead of using just the front area, if you wanted to include the inner area as well, you could make an assumption about how much that would be based upon the area of the front. In this case, we're just going to assume that the inner plus the outer is going to be about 4 times what the outer would be. So instead of entering 22 feet into our list input, we could actually enter 4 times that, or 88 feet, and that would give us an estimate of how much it would cost to do both the outer and inner parts of the cabinet. So basically, it's just a question then of changing this original estimate. And before we make any changes, we'll note that the original cabinet fronts only option used 77 square feet for prime undercoat. So we want to fix that number and keep it from changing. To do that, we go into edit, we specify 77 as the fixed quantity, and then we'll put a calculated quantity of 0 in there. So when we change our list input to be 4 times 22 or 88, we see that all of the other items in our job will change as we change the list quantity, but our prime undercoat stayed where it was. All right, let's say that you've used this template for several jobs and you've noticed that the estimates for the painting portion of it should be a little bit higher. Let's say that you'd like to increase that by 10%. How do you do that? What you want to do is go back to your original template that you created. So in this case, we'll go to Lists and choose Master Cabinetry. We said we wanted to add 10% in terms of the time that was required for labor. So if we go into Paint Cabinetry and edit this, we see that our labor production here is 14.08 square feet per hour. And if we wanted to increase that, then we basically are going to decrease the number of feet. Approximately, let's say if we went down to say like, 12.5 square feet per hour, then that would account for this difference. So that would obviously, fewer square feet per hour means you're going to take more time to do a given job, and that'll give you your number back. And what you want to do again is you want to edit the values that are inside your master list, not a copy, because then every time you go back to your master list and copy it, you will have all of your values in that list.